Militants attacked a crowded mosque in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula today. The death toll is in the hundreds.
President Trump reacted strongly on Twitter, writing in part, quote, "We have to get tougher and smarter than ever before, and we will. Need the wall, need the ban. God bless the people of Egypt."
Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was one of Donald Trump's earliest political supporters, but he could be breaking with the president as his legal trouble deepens.
There's various reasons why you would draw from this type of agreement. It doesn't mean that you're going to cooperate.
The jam-packed legislative agenda awaits him when he returns to Washington next week. The president planning some major meetings on the Hill. The White House looks at potential showdowns over tax reform and, of course, government funding.
The busiest shopping day of the year. Some frantic bargain hunters are coming to blows over the best deals.
You're breaking it.
Good morning. Welcome to Fox and Friends on this Saturday morning. In for Abby Huntsman, who still is on baby alert, by the way, is our own Lisa Booth.
Hi, guys.
Good morning. And Griff Jenkins, thanks for being here.
Thanks
Welcome,
for
Lisa.
having me. I appreciate the invite. I haven't gotten one before. So.
No, it's awesome to have you. I'm not a forensic videographer. Is that a word? I don't know, but I saw you. I think that was you on Black Friday wrestling over that television.
I really wanted it.
You really wanted it, right?
She doesn't want to answer that question because she's from Washington.
I can't.
And I'm very excited to have her from Washington because we're going to have double D.C. duty here.
It's true.
Also,
you're going to learn a lot about Lisa.
The smarter answer should have been, I cannot confirm or deny.
That's right. You see, you take the girl out of D.C., you bring her to New York, and this is what you get. But you're going to learn a lot about Lisa. It's very exciting to have her. And you guys did all the eating turkey, all the shopping. But there is news, and we've got a lot to give you this morning.
I did a lot of eating, too.
You did. We all still have leftovers in our fridge, so enjoy them this morning. I don't know, turkey for breakfast? Try your dish if you can. But it's in a tough turn. It's been a tough day. We got news yesterday about a horrific attack at an Egyptian mosque. And President Trump, over 200 people killed as ISIS claims responsibility for an attack on a Sufi Muslim mosque in Egypt. And President Tweet came out hard. President Tweet? That could kind of work, actually.
You're making people
Who's working, by the way.
It could kind of work. President Trump came out and tweeted about it, saying this. He said, we'll be calling the president of Egypt in a short while to discuss the tragic terrorist attack with so much loss of life. We have to get tougher and smarter than ever before, and we will. We need the wall, need the ban. God bless the people.
Now, this is significant just because the president also held a call while he's on supposedly vacation, as some in the media will point out. He's putting the tweet out, but he had a call with Egypt's President Sisi about this and holding pretty much the readout from the call says, look, we've got to get tough. And it's significant. And I know our audience doesn't want to hear a whole lot about Egypt and a whole lot of different tribes in the Muslim faith. Sure. But at the end of the day, it is the worst attack in Egypt's history, and it is on a Sufi mosque. And Sufi is a group of the Sunni tribe that is the most tolerant. So this is the radicals, the absolute ISIS terrorist clan attacking those within their own group, within their own religion that wants to preach peace, love, and tolerance. And the president, on his vacation, takes time out of Mar-a-Lago and says, this isn't okay, calls the president of Egypt, says, what do you need? And in turn, the United Nations Security Council put out a statement shortly after the president's call saying, that's right, yes, we totally agree with that. Every nation should condemn
And we know the Sinai province has been rocked by this sort of terrorist insurgency over the years, so this is something that they've been dealing with. And what we saw from President Trump in his tweet is the tough talk that we saw from him on the campaign trail as well, calling for that travel ban, that travel pause, also calling for the wall, calling for tougher enforcement and battling these terrorist activities that we've seen from across the world.
And he made a shift from previous administrations. He said, I'm going to back el-Sisi, who's more of a strongman, because I want him to tamp down on radical Islamists within his own country, as opposed to rolling the dice for democracy and hoping that maybe the Muslim Brotherhood don't get elected, which they have in the past. So we had Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He was on this network earlier. He had this to say about the dynamic in Egypt. Take a listen.
We have to be aware that it's not just Mexican drug cartels who can figure out the way to get illicit goods and people across the border. The bad guys will, too. And the ISIS folks have had aspirations of doing things here. You know they plant people in both the refugee pipeline as well as any sort of illegal or illicit activity that they can get a hold of. Look, that's why some of the folks have come across out of Libya into Europe, because they've gotten into the refugee stream there. So this is not a Muslim ban. The Muslims I've spoken to here, Jesse, don't want the violent Muslims coming here to kill them as well. So the idea here is the president has to do things to set up mechanisms and gateways so that the good folks get through, we maintain commerce, and shut down any potential of the bad guys coming here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, ultimately, it's about keeping America safe. If you have a strong man there who's willing to take on ISIS, and it may not mean all the freedoms we want for the people of that country, but you allow moderates to flourish, that's a good thing in light of the way history has treated us in that region over the last couple decades.
That's not the only thing the president tweeted about. It wasn't all about Egypt and ISIS.
Yeah,
he also tweeted about the cover of Time magazine, something he likes to tweet about. Let's put the tweet up from President Trump. He says, Time magazine called to say that I was probably going to be named Man Person of the Year like last year, but I would have to agree to an interview and a major photo shoot. I said probably is no good and took a pass. Thanks anyway.
So last year, the president was the Man of the Year and on the cover of Time magazine. This year, they call him, they say, you'll probably be. So we're going to take some photos, do an interview, and then you'll probably be. And the president tweets out, as you said, Griff, I don't do probably.
Yeah.
I do, if I'm the Man of the Year, that I'll take the photos. If not, skip it.
Wasn't it, you know, for some reason I was thinking of, wasn't it Newsweek that preliminary ran the Madam President article about Hillary Clinton, and then she lost, and they're stuck with you know, all these publications that are not factually accurate.
Can you buy Newsweek? Is that actually a?
It's not a publication anymore, Griff.
Right, I can't go buy it. Right. Oh, okay.
Turns out they didn't sell enough of them.
Well, maybe it was because they're Madam President.
That's right. Well, Time tweeted back at the president, Time magazine, saying this. They said the president is incorrect about how we choose Person of the Year. Time does not comment on our choice until publication, which is December 6th. And I will just say this. I see what they're saying. The reality is Time magazine, if they're going to have a publication, they're going to have a photo shoot, and they're going to have interviews, and they're going to have a story to go with it. So clearly, Time has reached out to the 2, 3, 4 people who may or may not be the Person of the Year.
Have you ever been reached out to?
Next year.
They called me, and I was like, I've got a lot going on. It's
I know. I got a host on the weekend.
Yeah,
really
I'm filling in for Abby. She's having a baby.
We should ask our viewers right now.
I'm a busy woman, you know.
Friends at FoxNews.com. Should Lisa Booth be Time's Person of the Year? Friends at FoxNews.com.
There's only one answer,
and weigh in also on how you feel about this whole thing. Should President Trump do it? I mean, they may go back now and say, actually, we really want you. You are our top guy.
Do you know how often the president's Twitter feed has exposed the sham of the so-called mainstream media? They have this facade about what they do and how they do it, and that's the defensive tweet that they just sent out. But when's the last time his tweet was shown to be not truthful about the mainstream media? He's saying, they called me. They said, maybe we'll do it. He said, I don't want to do it if it's a maybe. Of course that's what happened.
Well, and they've been very supportive of Hillary Clinton as well. So, you know, maybe the president was a little hesitant because of that as well. But
Well, speaking of Hillary Clinton, she's got a book out, right, Griff? We haven't heard about it at all.
That's right, yeah.
Is that why she's doing the interviews?
What happened?
I'm not sure. I haven't read it yet, but we're going to learn a whole lot about it. I'm sure if Time magazine decides to put her on the cover, I'm sure she would sell lots of copies.
She may be the Person of the Year, but the Time assistant managing editor, her name is 𝗡𝗪𝗪𝗦. She said this about Hillary Clinton's book. It's been named the year's top book. Said Clinton offers one answer to the question that rang collectively from more than half the country, including all of the Time magazine newsroom on November 9, 2016. The writing is frank, reflective, and a piece of modern history. So if you haven't read Modern History yet, you should go read What Happened from Hillary Clinton.
It'll be interesting to see, too.
That's a strong
and I haven't read it yet. You know, I guess I'll pick it up and have a read to see where Donna Brazile fits in there. I'm curious if she'll be mentioned.
There's some
about
bad
what
blood.
happened and, of course, the campaign, you know.
But it's amazing. I mean, you think about how... I mean, I don't know what the book sales are on Hillary Clinton's book. I got to look at that. We'll look that up in the break and bring it back to you. But
I saw it in your briefcase.
You did?
Yeah. You had highlighted it. There was the little notes on the side for pages that you wanted to revisit.
Why are you looking in my briefcase?
We'll try and get the actual digits and include it in our news. And by the way, we've just woken everybody up, so let's give them some headlines.
Right.
We got to turn in here because there is some serious news breaking overnight. A fugitive teen wanted in connection with the death of his grandmother is caught trying to cross the Canadian border. 15-year-old Logan Mott was reported missing with his grandmother Christina French earlier this week. Police finding French's body buried in the backyard of her son's Florida home, where Mott also lives. Authorities say the home was ransacked with several guns missing. Police plan to interview Mott to find out what happened. And an intense standoff between guards and prisoners ending with injuries overnight. 2 inmates taking a pair of officers hostage at a maximum security unit in Tucker, Arkansas, about 30 miles southeast of Little Rock. Staff injuries are described as minor, while no update is being provided on the inmates. It's the latest in a string of several violent incidents inside Arkansas's prisons, including at least 2 others at this facility. And 2 people are named interim head of a consumer watchdog agency, sparking confusion over who's in charge. President Trump naming White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney as the acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The appointment coming hours after outgoing director Richard Cordray, an Obama appointee, named his own successor. The dueling appointments now setting up what could turn into a high-stakes legal clash over the regulator's leadership. That's exactly what we need, more high-stakes legal wranglings. And President Trump spending some time on the links with PGA stars Tiger Woods and Dustin Johnson. The commander-in-chief inviting the golf pros to Trump International Club in Jupiter, Florida during his working vacation in the Sunshine State. Fans and club members catching a glimpse of the trio, but no word on who won the round. And those are your headlines. I'd be curious to know, Dustin Johnson's the #1 golfer in the world. Tiger, pretty good. But,
I was busy, so he called Tiger.
Yeah.
I was spending time with family.
I feel like that would be a good trio. Yeah.
So let's just recap what we've told them. The president dealt with the worst terrorist attack in Egypt, killing more than 235. He has dealt with the wishy-washiness of Time magazine, who may or may not be wasting his time. And he's taken time to hit the links with Tiger and Dustin Johnson. Sounds like it's been a pretty successful trip.
We want you to stick with us, but that was basically a summary of the last 12 minutes. Griff, well done. All right, coming up, the left is celebrating the idea of Michael Flynn flipping on the president.
This is big news, folks.
When I talk to a lot of Democratic voters, there's this hope and desire that this is going to go into the Oval Office.
The hope and desire. But our next guest says not so fast.
And Democrats say they're looking for fresh blood in 2020. So who are they turning to? 76-year-old Bernie Sanders? Welcome back. Some on the left are getting excited about the prospect of Michael Flynn turning on the president.
Michael Flynn's lawyers cut ties with President Trump's legal team. This is big news, folks.
When I talk to a lot of Democratic voters, there's this hope and desire that this is going to go into the Oval Office, that this can be traced back to the president.
I think that Mueller is going to want something from Flynn on Kushner, Don Jr., or Trump himself.
But is this just more left-wing wishful thinking of Trump-Russia collusion? Here with more is former DOJ official J. Christian Adams.
Morning.
Christian, tell us what you think about the latest news. And obviously, we played that soundbite of someone on the left getting excited about it. But what does this mean? What do our viewers on this Thanksgiving weekend need to know about this news? The headline, of course, the indication that since Flynn's lawyers now not communicating with the White House lawyers, that a deal has been struck and we're about to have this big shoe drop. What is all this about?
Yeah, the Democrats that you just played are in a rabid froth. They are obsessed with the president. They hate the president. They want to get him any way they can, and they view this as the way to do it, and they're unhinged. But what we know about Flynn is that he's facing pressure, just like other administration people are, from this special unrestrained counsel, Robert Mueller. And, you know, the latest leak out of Mueller's shop is that this might have something to do with a documentary film related to a Turkish dissident who lives on a lake in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. I mean, let's go there, because if that's what it's all about, it's going to be even more ridiculous than indictment about Manafort wiring money to an Alexandria rug store. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump or the White House or the campaign or Russia. It's like, let's find anything bad somebody did over 10 years.
Well, and Christian, obviously we had the New York Times report that Flynn's attorneys, as Griff had mentioned, pulled out of the joint defense agreement. Is it too early to try to conclude that somehow this is because he's striking a deal with Mueller, or that these conversations are even ongoing?
Yes, because it's just speculation. But listen, Lisa, there's troubling signs here. For the Wall Street Journal to get a leaked report, and as there have been lots of leaked reports out of the special prosecutor's office, that this involves a Turkish dissident, which was just published. That's a real troubling sign. And to tell you the truth, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, these leaks fall on his lap because it's illegal. It's illegal for Robert Mueller to leak. It's illegal for his staff to be leaking secret grand jury testimony. Those are crimes in and of themselves. And if Rod Rosenstein can't get Robert Mueller's leaking under control, Rod Rosenstein needs to go. He needs to be fired. So this is about an unhinged special prosecutor that's out of control, and nobody in the Deputy Attorney General's office will do anything.
To that point, Christian, very quick, because we don't have much time, but were you surprised that Manafort and Gates were charged with essentially a FARA violation, not registering as foreign agent, and many thought that it was going to be Flynn first that got that. Now we realize that his son, Flynn's son, Flynn Jr., could be in quite a bit of trouble as well. Do you anticipate that what we're going to see is a similar track as Manafort and Gates for Flynn trying to cut a deal to keep his son out of this?
Yeah, you have to keep the lunatics on the left happy, and anything you can find, anything you can do indict, whether it's family members, maids, distant cousins, go ahead. That's the attitude of Robert Mueller's office, is put as much political weaponization on the president as possible to try to discredit the results of the election last year.
All right, J. Christian Adams, thanks very much for taking time, and it will be much to follow. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
All right, still ahead, a former Hillary Clinton aide says Dan Bongino never worked on her security detail, but the photos don't lie. Dan is here to respond. That's coming up.
And President Trump says NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has lost control after another player kneels on Thanksgiving. Does he have a point? We'll debate it next.
And some quick headlines. Roy Moore is expected to make his first public appearance in nearly 2 weeks. His campaign telling Fox News the Alabama GOP Senate candidate will speak at a rally in Fort Payne, Alabama on Monday night. Moore has been facing accusations of sexual misconduct by nearly 10 women. The special election is December 12th. And Capitol Police are now investigating whether a nude photo of Congressman Joe Barton posted online is a crime. The Texas Republican claiming he may be a victim of a former lover who threatened to share the picture after he broke off an affair. And Pete, we're throwing it over to you.
Thanks, Griff. Well, President Trump fires off on Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, after the another NFL player protested during the national anthem on Thanksgiving Day, just one of them. He tweeted, "Can you believe that that the disrespect for our country, our flag, our anthem continues without penalty to the players? The commissioner has lost control of the hemorrhaging league. Players are the boss." Well, does the president have a point? Here to debate is Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins and the managing editor of Olympic Media, Katie Freites. Thank you both for being here this morning. Michael, I will start with you. You know, the criticism is, why is he focusing on this with so many other things on his agenda? But could you not acknowledge the president can do two things at once, or more than two things at once, comment on something critical to our culture while also advancing policy? And does he not have a point that politics is downstream of culture. If you don't address what's happening in your culture, eventually it manifests in your politics. What do you say?
Well, there's a lot to that, so let me unpack it. First of all, if the President of the United States wants to be a political pundit, I'll gladly switch jobs with him. But I really don't understand how this is going to get his tax bill passed, how this is going to get Obamacare repealed and replaced. But more importantly, what you have is a president punching down. These are private citizens using their First Amendment right to talk about issues that they think are important and issues that have been brought to the light and we're all now discussing. So I think that's something that we should actually be talking about in a positive way, not going after these players. That's what America's about, being able to talk about uncomfortable things. I think that's what we're doing.
Katie, punching down or elevating the conversation?
Well, the problem here is that I don't think that the players are bringing up a topic that anyone understands anymore. Originally, yes, this was about police brutality. And I think that's an important conversation to have. But they have not kept that up. It has diffused into simply a political topic of left versus right. And I do think Trump has honestly won the debate on this. However, I'm not a fan of his tweets, and I never have been. But the real loser here is the NFL. It is the commissioner and the teams who refuse to take a stand on what they think, and they've let the players run roughshod over them, and they've felt the effects in terms of viewers and advertisement and clout.
Michael, I heard what you said about punching down. Setting that aside, if you're the president of the United States and you feel like you're charged with sort of the perspective of our country, you've got young kids watching a game that they love, seeing the players they revere, taking a knee during the anthem we all should respect. Is it not understandable that he would say, you know what? If you want to protest somewhere else. But in this game that we love, with the national anthem that we love, why can't everyone stand? Is that not an important cultural critique when we live in a world where in our schools say kids are taught to be global citizens before they're taught to be, patriotic Americans? Do you get what he's getting at here?
Well, first, I don't know which schools they're teaching to be global citizens.
Well, you should watch
every
the
school
show
I've
more
gone
often.
to. Every school I've gone to, they've taught to be American first. But listen, I think there's a conversation to be had by the president, absolutely. But I think there's a way to do it. And I think when, you start lobbing tweets and using Twitter as a rhetorical bomb, I think it makes the conversation so much more loaded. And so, I think there's a way to do it where you can bring players in the league together and have a conversation that makes the country better, that engages everyone.
Michael,
then
briefly,
I think there's a way that's divisive.
Way to do it, is it not divisive to take a legitimate protest about, their perception of police conduct and mix it in with the national anthem that should be a unifying aspect? Would you not make that critique as well?
I think it can be divisive, but I also think that part of protesting is making people uncomfortable. And so, I know that you served, and I hope that, other military people like you can understand that it's not solely about disrespecting you guys, and that was never the intention, but it's about bringing to light a really uncomfortable conversation.
It is
so
an uncomfortable.
Those two aren't mixed.
It's an uncomfortable conversation. Unfortunately, it's been conflated with the perception of patriotism and an anthem that so many people revere. Katie, the NFL has really suffered from this. Ratings have been a problem. Folks like myself, who are big fans of the league, have stopped watching certain games, and a lot of other people have as well. What does the NFL need to do to move this forward and reach some common ground here?
First and foremost, telling the players to stay inside during the anthem, this new idea that's been floating around, is absolutely the worst thing that the commissioner and the NFL could do, telling them to stay in the locker rooms. That is, again, just the NFL kicking the football down the field, saying we don't want to deal with this issue. We're not going to take a legitimate stance as private entities that have hired these people to do a job. If they're not going to do that, fans are going to continue to be angry. They're going to continue not to watch. If the NFL, a pastime that America loves, has become this political fracas.
It sure has. Unfortunately, we'll see if they can address it for the rest of the season or into the next one. Michael and Katie, thank you very much for your conversation.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
Have a great morning.
Have a great morning. All right, a former Hillary Clinton aide says Dan Bongino never worked on her security detail. Oh, but those pesky pictures, they just don't lie. Dan is here to respond next. And a judge just delivered a major blow to Seattle on its plan to tax the rich. Stick around for this one.
I had the privilege of working with and for her as a Secret Service agent. I found Mrs. Clinton to be the most deceptive human being, manipulative political person in a position of power I'd ever met in my entire life. It wasn't so much that she was a liar. It was that she did it and she deceived and manipulated with such ease.
So that was Dan Bongino. Yes, strong words from Dan Bongino on, as many of us are, on Tucker on Wednesday. We're going to bring in Dan right now. Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, former NYPD officer, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. So Dan, you triggered a few people, especially some former Hillary Clinton staffers who took to Twitter and had a different view of whether or not you have a view of Hillary Clinton. This is Nick Merrill. He was a traveling press secretary and aide to Hillary Clinton. This is what he tweeted after your segment on Tucker on Wednesday. He said, "I've worked for Hillary Clinton for a decade, and two things are true. She has enormous respect for the Secret Service and a great relationship with the agents on her detail. And two, this guy, meaning you, was never on the Clintons' detail, and I don't recognize him in the slightest." So, Dan, you know, the internet has a way of working these things out. I think you were a part of pushing this out as well. There's some photos, pesky photos that have emerged of you on her detail.
The photo doesn't lie. That looks like a young, dashing, handsome Dan Bongino. We're going to ask him also about what happened between that photo and now. But the point is, the photos don't lie. It's the same, you know. Al Franken can get away. Yeah. Dan, what do you say now that this is played out?
Yeah, that's interesting. That photo was taken in 2001 at the U.S. Open tennis tournament and was on the back cover of Newsday. It was actually a color photo. I don't know why I made it black and white a long time ago, make it seem more, give some emotion in it or something. I'm not sure. But I had it on an Instagram. Now, what's interesting about that is these people are very clever, the Clinton mob out there. They always attack the messenger when you go after the Clintons, right? And he says something, he goes, well, he was never on the detail. And he's right. I was not on her presidential campaign detail. But I was there way before Nick arrived. My mounds of work and the government documents I have showing my pile of work with the Clintons is probably this thick. I knew the Clintons probably before Nick did. So it's just interesting that he would pick a fight with me. Let me just make this point, guys, too, because this is important. This is how the Clinton mob works, right? What they do is they need the Clintons to stay in power and to stay relevant. So they need to discredit anybody with information on the Clintons that may impugn their reputation and cover up the bevy of secrets that are still out there. I'm telling you guys, because sources feed me stuff all the time. There's stuff out there on the Clintons that hasn't been made public. And believe me, they know it because they were there when it happened.
So stop for 1 second, Dan. I want to get your take on how this actually made you feel when Nick Merrill put that out, a communications guy, a spin guy. That's what he does for a living. This is what the press folks in Washington do. Put that photo up for 1 more second. You're sitting literally behind her in the proximity, and your job at that very moment, your job is to protect her should the unthinkable happen. You're very close, perhaps the closest in proximity to her we have seen. Certainly in public events like this, things can happen. Your life is technically on the line there, and we shouldn't overlook that point. How does it make you feel when Nick Merrill says, nah, you weren't even there?
Yeah, well, it's kind of disgusting, and he's a disgusting human being. He really is. He's never put his life on the line for anything other than maintaining the sad, sick political aura of the Clintons. And you know, I say to Nick, who tweeted that and, you know, went after me, the messenger, that's fine. You're certainly entitled to do that. I respect your right to fight back, but I'm going to fight, too. You know, I swore an oath to the Constitution in the Secret Service. I did not swear an oath to cover for the misdeeds of your messiah, Hillary Clinton, and neither did the people who contact me. I can't give them up. And, you know, fair enough, Griff, some people have said, well, you know, if you have information, put it out there. I totally understand that. I get it. But I don't think you understand the position I'm in. These are friends of mine and associates who have contacted me over the course of many years with very damaging information on these people that is unimpeachable and more than credible. I can't just put it out there without getting them hurt. If they say to me, listen, this is here, but I'm afraid to talk because they're afraid of the Clintons, which they are, I'm not going to get them and their families and put them in potential jeopardy with their jobs. It's an awkward position to be in. But the Clintons got to be very careful about poking that bear. And Dan, I'm telling you, I can't say this enough. People know what happened with them.
Dan, we want to hear from you on another topic as well. An MS-13 victim was stabbed 100 times, his heart ripped out of his chest in a sanctuary jurisdiction out of Maryland. So
yeah.
when we hear stories like this, obviously President Trump has talked about MS-13. He talked about the gang on the campaign trail. He's also talked about it as president of the United States. When we hear stories like this, doesn't this make it more difficult for critics to oppose sanctuary jurisdictions?
You know, Lisa, the critics have no point. You know, we just passed Thanksgiving, right? And I think everybody thanks God every day for our fighting men and women and them keeping this country safe, right? And that flag that they drape themselves in overseas. What does that mean to you? No, I'm serious. Like, to the listening audience out there, and I know we have a lot of liberals. Of course, you're always welcome to put your eyeballs on the channel. But what does that mean to you? Like, we have jurisdictions now that have taken that flag and thrown it out the window and said, hey, anybody's welcome here, anytime, for any reason. Policies and laws be damned. And what happens? What happens is people die. People are killed in the real world when really stupid people in positions of power throw the flag, the laws, and the rules and regulations out the window and let anybody and their family come in despite the rules and regulations. I ask one simple question to those people. Where do you want to go if you were a potential criminal coming into the country illegally? Where? Do you want to go to a sanctuary county, knowing you will never be reported to the immigration for deportation, sure, and you'll be almost protected by local police? Or you want to go to a law and order county? Where do you want to go?
Dan,
pretty simple answer.
You ran. Dude, we only have a couple of seconds here, Dan. You ran for Congress in that very district. How bad is the MS-13 problem there?
Pete, it's off the. It's like a nuclear explosion of illegal immigration in that county. It's worse than anybody knows. Go there and check it out if you think I'm misleading you.
All right. Well,
I don't think you are. So no.
We'll take your word for it. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Dan, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, all.
And now turning to your headlines, new court filings revealing that the research firm behind that anti-Trump dossier paid journalists potentially for positive coverage. The House Intelligence Committee accusing Fusion GPS of hiring journalists who either reported on or were quoted in stories about the document. The assertion made as part of a bid to force the firm to turn over additional bank records.
And a legal battle now brewing in Seattle. A judge ruling against the city's controversial tax on the wealthy, calling it illegal. The judge says city officials overstepped their authority by imposing the tax because state law prohibits tax on net income. But the city isn't backing down, vowing to appeal, setting the stage for a Washington state Supreme Court showdown.
Lisa, I'm still hung up on that first headline. If you're paid, you're not a journalist anymore.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly. Well, with Democrats looking for fresh blood, 76-year-old Bernie Sanders is tabbed as the favorite to face off against President Trump in 2020. Yes, you heard that right, fresh blood and Bernie Sanders in the same sentence. Well, The Hill surveying a dozen party leaders, finding Sanders as a leading candidate. Former VP Joe Biden, Senators Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and Sherrod Brown, as well as former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, rounding out the top six. Wow. And those are your headlines.
That's new blood right there.
Absolutely.
If I've ever
surprising.
Rick, you're always new blood for this program.
That makes you feel like you have a big future ahead of you still, doesn't it?
The world's your oyster.
I'm by far the oldest
child.
I'm by far the oldest one of us here. So this makes me feel like I have a bright future ahead. I tell you what, a pretty nice weekend overall. Everybody thinking, hey, I got to travel back home now from grandma's or mom's. A little bit of rain here across parts of the Great Lakes, but that's rain. It's not snow. Not that cold. We're going to have a little shot of cold air tomorrow, but then we warm right back up. And for tomorrow, any travel plans tomorrow? I tell you what, looking great. We do have a system pulling in across the Pacific Northwest, maybe Northern California. So for San Francisco, Portland,